Hello. Welcome to another Path of Exile monk build. Let's say build 4.0. So in the past 2-3 days, 3.5 has quickly become 4.0. I've changed quite a lot. I've spent a lot of time on Path of Builder, trying different things, moving stuff around, trying different statistics, messing around with a passive tree, putting different gems in, all to try and work around this build. So what we're going to do is we're going to go straight into the stats first, then the skills, then the passives, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a run over of how I play and what I use for maps, what I use for bosses, and a little breakdown of Path of Builder. So let's begin. Statistics wise, gone up to 93, dropped my strength dramatically, dexterity has gone up, intelligence has gone up. The reason why is I'm now not using Jack of all trades on my amulet. I've changed on my amulet. Energy shield, I've got 4,423. Pair this with Grim Feast, I have about 8.5. Mana, 1121. Spirit, 210, that's the same. Evasion, my evasion was like 37% or something. It's now 61%. I'm going to get that a little bit higher. I can get that roughly around about 70%. Which is great, because you've got 4,400 energy shield and 60% evasion, you're a lot more tanky than you were before. Again, full resistances as it is before. I have 130 mana regen per second. Add this to my staff, which gives me 21 per kill, and I basically generate a lot of mana. Plus on the temper spell, there's 5% mana leech on the temper spell as well, so my mana kind of stays quite a lot. The only time it really suffers is if I'm like mainly fighting a boss and I'm like it's a little bit longer, but I've managed to actually keep the mana regen quite high. Plus you generate charges that much, just tap 2 or whatever it is on your controller. Tap your mana thing. You generate them quick if you're struggling for mana. As I said, there's 61% chance to evade, and then movement speed modifiers, charges, etc. So let's move into the skills. In the skills we have Quad Staff Strike, which is the same. Unbound Avatar with Cold Mastery, Lightning Mastery, Fire Mastery, and Ingenuity, which gives you the faster cooldown rate, so therefore it cools down a lot quicker, as you can see, 0.5 seconds down to 0.38 seconds. Ice Strike has pretty much remained the same. I've got Primal Armament, Heft, Ice Bite, Concentrated Effect, and Martial Tempo. The main thing that's changed on Ice Strike is this here. I've increased my critical hit chance from like, I think it was 37 or 41% to 50%, and then my critical damage bonus is 553%. But on here, these statistics are a little bit different to what Path of Builder says. Path of Builder compares a lot of other factors, so your actual DPS on here is a lot different to what it will say on Path of Builder, and I'll show you that when I launch it up. Temper Spell, I've got Overabundance, so we can have the one to the limit. Heavy Swing for that more melee damage. Glaciation, which causes freeze up, build up. Soul Thief, which gives you the 5% back of mana, and then Leverage, which gives you 50% critical hit chance against immobilized enemies. Someone did comment, because I was using this in build 3.5, saying that this isn't like a 50% critical hit chance. It's not as high as that, but I do notice that once I've like done a few attacks, hit the bell, and then doing other attacks and stuff, my damage just increase. So I'm going to keep it on for the time being. Herald of Thunder has pretty much stayed the same. Cold Infusion, Super Critical, Long Shot, and Ambush. Herald of Ice, again, stayed the same. Lightning Infusion, Magnified Effect, Innovate, and Neural Overload. Combat Frenzy has got Profusion, as we have before. This is the biggest change here. So you may have seen on my TikToks and my YouTube shorts that I uploaded if I'm putting the video out today, it was a couple of hours ago. If I'm putting the video out tomorrow, it was yesterday afternoon. And on my TikToks, it was like Saturday that I uploaded the video where I'm basically running a breach. You'll see it on the front of the beginning clip as well. I'm running around the breach and I'm basically just hitting everything with cast on freeze. And what I've added to it is Frost Wall, Eye of Winter, Frostbolt, Impetus, and Energy Retention. So with me having a high amount of mana regen, I'm able to run these quite well. But if you are struggling with mana regen, I would recommend taking out Frostbolt and probably keeping in Frost Wall and Eye of Winter. If you're still struggling, keep one of these two in. Okay, what I've noticed since using this, like I said, this was just a massive play around. I spent hours on Path of Builder on Friday night / Saturday morning, and I found basically when you're using Frostball, obviously they shatter, which then causes obviously build up, and then causes shatter again, which is then causing your Herald of Thunder to shatter the frost walls. Any lower level enemies will attack the frost wall, so again you got a little bit extra defenses. Eye of Winter then basically fires a charge of projectiles around, which if you put it at 20% gives you more projectile speed, and then you've got critical weakness, causes hits against the targets to have 0.5 critical hit chance and can stack up to 20 times. Okay, so that's a 10% critical hit chance on top of that. Then you've got Frostbolt, which again these pierce all targets, 100% the magnitude of chill effect, and then it puts chill ground and around it again. So it is good. The piercing enemy is pretty good as well where it goes through, but again, using all three of these is quite mana hungry. So it's great for breaches, it's great for maps, but I personally wouldn't run it on a boss. And the main reason why is cast on freeze comes from when you're hitting an enemy. Most of the damage comes from here. Most of the damage comes from Tempest Bell, because obviously you hit 4 times, then put the Tempest Bell down, hit the bell, and this generates large amounts of stun, like freeze if you've got it on it, and then generates quite a lot of damage. But when you're hitting the bell, you can't generate cast on freeze. You have to decide, do you run Tempest Bell and hit the bell and it cause damage to the enemy, or do you run cast on freeze and not use the bell as much, but like add Frost Wall and etc. onto this. This, like I say, is great for large targets, but as I just previously said, I wouldn't recommend running it for a boss. If someone's got a different way to run it, if it works on a boss, by all means leave a comment below, but I've personally found that replacing this for Hand of Chayula when you come to bosses is just so much better. Grim Feast is the same, Wind Dance is the same, as Staff you've got Culling Strike, Coursing Current, Conduction, Unbreakable, and Persistence. So as I said, for bosses, I would personally remove these, and then just before I go into the boss battle, add this, add this, add this. So you've got Freezing Mark, Hypothermia, Conductivity, and Heightened Curse. So you hit them with the Hand of Chayula. This gives you obviously more chaos damage, gives you critical hits, gives you extra effects, which then you pass it to your Freezing Mark. This causes more freeze build-up. Then you've got Hypothermia, which causes them to have 35% cold resistance, which again then will increase the more freeze build-up. Conductivity, which gives them lightning resistance, which means if you're casting Herald of Thunder, they're going to basically get hit by Herald of Thunder quite often. And then your Heightened Curse, which gives you more increased effect. So that is great against bosses. I also found that on Cast on Freeze, if you want to run Cast on Freeze, you can run it with Frost Wall, Ball Lightning, and Lightning Warp. So running these three together, the Ball Lightning shoots out, and then the Lightning Warp warps to where the lightning is. So effectively, it kind of works like Flicker Strike, because these basically move around multiple times. There's different areas across it. The more you cast it, and then if you do get it, it bounces across like the area. So therefore, it works a bit like Flicker Strike. Build wise, well, gear wise, Slicing Quarterstaff is basically stayed the same. Got the critical damage bonus. I might change this to critical hit chance. I'm gonna play around with it and see what it looks like. Same breach rings with cold damage, lightning damage, cold damage again across here. Ingenuity belt, 54%. I'm saving up, though I did spend quite a lot of my divines on jewels, but I'm saving up for a better belt. Hand of Wisdom and Action, again, how well it's pretty much in most builds. This helmet is pretty much the exact same one, chest is the exact same one, and then boots is the exact same one as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the passive tree. This is where things have changed a significant amount. So originally, my passive tree came up here, up to here, and to get these nodes down here, down to there, and then all the way down there to there to get extra jewels and stuff like that. But I've changed it quite a lot. The reason for this is I wanted to go for more a crit build. As I mentioned in my previous video, crit is the go-to. But as a few people saw on my community post, I hit 1.3 million attack damage when I was in Unbound Avatar with full 30 rage 1.3 million damage per second. Like, that's insane. That's insane. So I'm going to go into a lot of detail with this, and I'm going to explain why I've picked this bait, because I reckon it's been about 4 hours in total changing this around, moving it around, because I didn't have enough energy shield, and then I wanted some evasion, but then I was like, do I just scrap evasion and go for pure damage? But yeah, I've played around with it, even to the point of these here, where my dexterity is, where my intelligence is, where my strength is, because I could knock this one dexterity off and it would knock my DPS down, or I could swap this dexterity to intelligence and it put my DPS up. It was changing that significant, but it works really, really well. So we start this side here, got the skill speed, and obviously your critical damage bonuses. This is you've got your 12%, your 24%, and then your 12%. So straight away you've got your energy shield there. Then we're coming around, we've got these crit chance nodes here. Coming around this area, across, and then you come into this area here, you've got crit chance, crit chance, crit chance, and then crit chance again. So there's a huge amount of crit chance in this section here. Then energy shield and mana regen, energy shield and mana regen, energy shield, mana regen, and increased intelligence. Then you come around to this side, again, energy shield, and this one, maximum energy shield is plus 40%, but you do lose 10% of mana. Then we come straight up here, get these nodes here. Then we come up here, get the moment of truth, which gives you the critical damage bonus if you've not dealt a critical hit recently, and you get 20% in critical hit chance. Even though you got 50% crit chance, obviously you don't always deal a critical hit, 50% in chance you do, so you could have more damage originally, and then you would crit, and then you get your damage from bonuses from the other statistics. Up here, attack damage, and then 30% when you're on full life, or 50% when you're on low life. Obviously we're on 1, so effectively it's 1 out of 1, so we are technically on full life, so we should get 30% increased attack damage. Then we go across to these nodes up here. So you've got True Strike, which gives you more crit chance again, crit chance, damage, damage. For the Jugular, which is crit damage bonus and intelligence. 20% if you've dealt a critical hit. If you've got obviously large amounts of crit chance, you're going to deal it across there. Again, if you dealt a critical hit. And then again, if you dealt a critical hit in the past 8 seconds. And then this gives you more crit chance. So again, we're going into full crit build. Up again, attack speed, and then attack speed and reduction of costs. And then we go up here, obviously make sure to take resonance because we are using charge staff, so therefore we do need frenzy charges and endurance charges, etc. Then we take Eternal Youth. This is to regenerate energy shield. We are flask because we are using chaos inoculation, so therefore we do not need health. I'll go for the jewels in a minute. Up to this point here, again, crit chance, damage bonus, reduced damage bonus, but increased crit chance. Chaos inoculation, which puts your life down to 1, but then obviously you're immune to chaos damage, and then the jewel there, like I said, I'll go through them in a few seconds. Then we go to here, crit damage, and then charges. I'm running 5 power charges, which is pretty good. Then again, crit damage, and then crit damage bonus, but then reduced crit chance. These two balance each other out. So this is reduced critical damage bonus, but 50% increased crit chance. And this is increased crit damage bonus, but reduced critical hit chance. Okay, so they do balance each other out. Then we come down, and we go into these statistics here. So this is just based for the quarterstaff. So we've got attack speed, accuracy, critical damage bonus, and dexterity, which is dexterity paired with a hower will then give you attack speed. And then you've got critical hit chance, damage, and damage. Okay, so again, like I keep saying, we're speccing really, really high into crits. Across this side, I'm going to go straight over to here. Evasion, energy shield, then gain 2 evasion rating per 1 energy shield on the equipped helmet. So my helmet has 404 energy shield, so I'm gaining 2 evasion per 1 energy shield on it there. So I'm gaining 808 energy shields just on this helmet. Then we move down here, straight into attack speed, dexterity, etc. Falcon technique, which is 1% attack speed per 15 dex. Obviously yours will vary depending on how much dexterity you have as well. Then we come down to this side here, so you've got herald damage, and then herald damage as well if you used Herald of Thunder or Herald of Ice. And obviously if we're using Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice, we're getting 50% increased damage from both of them. Then we come down to this section here, and again, crit, intelligence and crit, and crit. So the stupid amounts of crit, which in turn is giving you increased damage once you crit. Even if you don't crit, you're still getting increased damage because you've got Moment of Truth on. So therefore you're constantly running with some form of buff. So before we go through the jewels, I'll just quickly go over the ascendancy points. We've got evasion and energy shield, lead me through grace, which is obviously the spirit and energy for evasion, etc. And then we've gone for chill effect, I am the blizzard, which is extra cold damage, and elemental damage, which is a 12% increase, and then unbound avatar, as I said before, at full 30 rage with unbound avatar, I was hitting 1.3 million DPS. It's a huge amount. I was tempted to get rid of that and add the extra damage as lightning, but I noticed that I don't realistically need it. And then we've got crit chance, and then ignore the elemental resistances. Again, this is amazing because if there's any monsters that have got elemental resistances, or any enemies, sorry, you're going to ignore it. So let's go for the jewels. I've changed my jewels. I've spent 2 divines on 2 jewels, gone for blues rather than greens. So we'll go to this one. This is still the same one side originally. 9% increased critical hit chance for attacks, 13% increased attack damage, 11% increased damage with quarterstaffs, and then 3% attack speed quarterstaffs. So it's just pure damage. This jewel over here, I was able to get for one divine. This is 13% increased cold damage. We use Ice Strike, we just do mainly cold damage. 18% maximum energy shield, 20% increased critical damage bonus, and then 12% increased mana regen rate. So the blue jewels are the way to the go. 13% damage with quarterstaffs, 2% attack speed with quarterstaffs, 5% accuracy, and then 11% freeze build-up. Then we've got this ruby over here, which is attack speed, melee damage, warcry speed, which I don't use, but it's 1 rage on melee hit, which is great because it saves me using rage on my Ice Strike, which means that I can use Ice Bite for the extra 35% flat damage. And then the final jewel up here is 13% increased cold damage, 10% increased maximum energy shield, 20% increased critical damage bonus, which is huge, that's max stat, and 10% mana regen rate. So again, jewels are key. I did say this in a video, they're giving me stupid amounts of damage, energy shield, crits, and mana regen just from these here. If you think about it, if I have 5 of these jewels and they're at 13% cold damage each one, as I said in my previous video, jewels key. You think about it. These jewels that I've currently got on, if I remove the one from rage and remove the quarterstaff damage one there, and let's say another quarterstaff damage one down here, and you've got 13% cold damage, let's say hypothetically you get 5 at 20%, that's 100% critical damage bonus. You get 10% mana regen, that's 50% mana regen. You get 10% energy shield, that's 50% increased energy shield. It's a huge amount. They're just adding to your DPS, adding to your survivability, adding to your statistics. You put some of these in, like for instance, if I put an extra jewel in that increases my energy shield by a little bit more and then a little bit more, that means I could probably drop these down here and then start to spec into like here and here or up here to get these extra crit chances, therefore increasing your damage. Or I can use it to go maybe further up or across, add another jewel socket with a blue one, which then gives me more cold damage, more energy shield, more critical damage, and more mana regen. My chest and my amulet alone give me 103% mana regen. Add these to it here with the, what's that, 12%, and I think this is this 15? No, 10%, just off 4 things. And they weren't expensive. They are now, because it's obviously increased, but they wasn't expensive when I originally got them. Play it smart. Go through. Some people are pricing them ridiculously high. Look through the trading system, look for what you want, drop a stat down slightly, and then go from there. Finally, what we're going to move on to is we're going to move on to Path of Builder. So, Path of Builder is amazing. It was recommended in my first monk build, which someone said, download this and have a go at it. A friend of mine also uses it quite a lot. You have the ascendancies across here, your different points, all your different skills here. So these are your ascendancies, and then obviously they all share the same skill tree. Then, once you change it, update your statistics down the side here. Ignore what it says here, the gem sockets, it's just a bug. So you go through, you configure your stuff, what you're doing, your rage and everything like that, and it gives you maximum statistics. You go into energy, you go into your skill tree, you go into your passive tree, and this is where you put all your stuff in. So I've messed around with this, moved it around. You can actually put your jewels in. All you do is copy and paste them. Your skills, you put your skills in, and then you just type them in across there, and you put the level, the quantity, and then click include it in your full DPS. Items, these are all my items. All I did was went to the game, clicked on the staff, so Control C, go back to Path of Builder, Control V, and it pastes it. Pastes everything with my slots, and then you just put add to build. You can corrupt it, and you can do other bits, but then all you do is cancel it off if you don't want to put it in there. And then your sockets, you just literally select the rings or the amulets that you want. Your charms and everything is great. You can put as much stuff into it as possible. Then what this does is this does a lot of calculations, as you can see on here. You can calculate your normal strikes, your third strikes. So according to this, I'm on 687,000 damage with just my Ice Strike when I do the third strike. And then this pairs with my crit modifiers and then my mana cost and damage taken and everything across here, which then gives you this full statistic down here. So as you can see, my average damage is 80,000, but I do an attack rate of 6.63, a crit chance of 50%, a crit multiplier of 727%, because obviously once you are running like charge staff and everything like that, you increase your crit chances. So as I said, this statistic is like at full potential. Hit chance at 100%, hit damage at 536,000, mana and mana cost per second and stuff like that. Shows you my strength, dexterity and intelligence. Shows me how much I do like on chaos, elemental and physical. My life regen, my mana regen, my spirit, energy shield, my percentage of any shield from a tree, maximum rage. If I change this will affect this. Evasion rating is showing 5,000, which is an evasion from the trees 87%. Again, this is because of the just statistics that come from using like Wind Dancer and stuff like that. So this takes into account Wind Dancer and everything. So this basically I have 87% and an evasion chance of 66 and a higher evasion rating. Then you go down to your modifiers. Again, these are all 75%. Your movement speed and then your full DPS. So it says add all these together from these sections here. I do a max 1.288 mil. Okay, and as we see in the picture, I was running around about 1.3 mil. So Path of Builder is great. Just genuinely create a build, copy and paste it all. They will eventually have a bit where once GGG sorted, where you can literally just take it straight from their website, your build, and it just imports it all in with all your skills, all your stats and everything, and then you just have to edit it across. Play around with the tree, play around with the skills, play around with the items, play around with your calculations. Have a look at what would happen if I put this on, what would happen if I put this on. So for instance, my amulet up here, okay, I'm running Storm Charge, but I'm running Jack of all trades. I went through each thing looking at what would add the better damage, what would do this, what would change it. All right, yeah, it takes a while. Like I say, I spent a good few hours about it, but it makes you understand the build. I've got over 200 hours in this game now. When I first played this game, I put Monk on. It was my first ever character. I got round the corner, died, and then changed and went to a witch, and then I didn't like the witch, and then I went back to the monk, and I spent ages before I got charge staff running in, getting a few kills to get my percentage up, dying, running in, dying, then building it up, dying consecutively, changing the builds, moving around until I got to a point where I'm confident with this build, confident enough to sit here on a YouTube channel and say that this build is good. It has the damage, it has the mana regen, it has the ability to wipe the bosses out. The hardest bit about this build is getting the gear. That is it, okay? Because the Hour and the Engineer belt cost a fortune. And that's just because of the price rises. My quarterstaff was 7 div, okay? So if you're lucky and you're dropping divines or you're dropping this or you're dropping that, yeah, and you're flush and stacked, go and buy your gear. If you're unlucky, okay, like me, who's played 250 hours and not seen one single perfect Jeweler's orb, you have to do what I do, and that is val them. So I've valed most of my skills, or bought them. Like I've spent 2 divine on a perfect Jewelers. Okay, so it's RNG plays a massive part in your gear, but you play a massive part in building your gear. Sit around, put some music on, play around with it. Even go on a YouTube video, okay, that says best DPS monk. All right, copy the build into Path of Builder. See if it's actually good. Click my link in the description. See if my build's good. Okay, any feedback is hugely appreciated. I'm constantly learning. I love feedback, whether it be negative, whether it be positive. So anyway, if you liked the video, can you please leave a like? Any suggestions, please comment below. And if you like this content, please subscribe for more videos. I am starting a new build. I'm going to start a Ranger. Probably I've seen a few bits around about Deadeye, but I probably might try and move it around, spice it up a little bit, play around in this. But yeah, stay safe. Peace.